The Cowboys OT is brought to you by Sleep Number. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com, trusted by millions, trusted by America's team. And NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl.
It wasn't how they necessarily drew it up, but the Cowboys do survive, and they notch win number 10 of the 2022 season, 27-23 over the Houston Texans in Week 14 at AT&T Stadium. It took an 11-play, 98-yard drive under the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter to come out on top, but they do just that. Welcome in to Cowboys OT from the Star in Frisco in the Globe Life Studios alongside Barry Church, Nate Newton, and Isaiah Stanback, a trio of former Dallas Cowboys. I'm Kyle Youmans. Glad you're with us. Like I said, not exactly the prettiest win in Cowboys history. However, it might have been one of the more important ones because it does keep Dallas in the hunt for an NFC East title. They've still got a ways to go, down by 2 games still to the Philadelphia Eagles, who won today, but this one at least keeps you in the fight.
You're right, Kyle. It kept them in the fight. It kept them within striking distance of the Philadelphia Eagles out there. Now, this was an ugly win, but at the end of the day, a win is a win, and you'll take it any way you can get it. Offensively, they just seemed off balance the entire game. I'm not sure what it was. Offensive line kind of struggled. There was pressure on Dak the entire game, and I don't know what happened between Dak and his receivers, but that connection there, it just wasn't there. We saw a lot of errant throws, of course, the 2 interceptions out there, so they have to work on a lot of things offensively. Defensively, it wasn't their best outing, but they made the plays in order to get this team an opportunity to win the game. The offense drove the ball 98 yards at the end, and a victory is a victory, like I stated, but they got to clean some things up.
They came out and they scored quick, and all of a sudden, like, the air just went out. I'm like, oh, okay, the Texans are going to lay down, but the Texans didn't lay down. And like my man Barry said, we had a few bad passes, and they turned into interceptions, and they showed up all day. But you know what? We're going to have to start learning that our defense is the stick. At 23 points was scored. People say, well, they got 23 points, but that's the norm in the NFL. So our defense did what they had to do. Cavante Turpin had that slight little misstep, and that hurt us too. But we have to clean up those penalties. Those turnovers, because they will hurt us against better teams.
There was a great philosopher by the name of Bubba Sparks. He said it was going to be ugly up in here, up in here. That's exactly what it was here for the Dallas Cowboys. The reality is what you just heard from these guys. They thought they could just show up and beat the Texans. That's the reality. And they got punched in the mouth. After they come out to a hot start, they thought that they could just go ahead and go back into a recliner and just ease their way to victory. Texans came to play. They came to make a statement. They came to say that they're competitive. Dallas eventually responded, but it was almost too little too late. As you guys already mentioned, you can't do this against those good teams, so you need to start practicing those positive reps now.
Where does he come up with this stuff? Bubba Sparks reference 2.5 minutes into the postgame show. I guess, hey, there you go. Check it off your bingo card this week as the Cowboys do get the win. Let's take a look at some of the highlights along the way because like we talked about, it was a hot start for the Cowboys in their first meeting at home against the Houston Texans since 2014. On the opening drive, Dallas works down the field, and they did so on the ground. Ezekiel Elliott misdirection, sets up to give to Pollard, and an easy race to the pylon won by TP, Isaiah.
Yeah, they went out there in pony personnel where you have 2 running backs in the backfield. They went misdirection with Mr. Zeke, and you see TP just utilizing the assets and the speed that he has.
Dallas averaged 11 yards per carry on that opening drive. Following a 3-and-out forced by the defense, Cavante Turpin back at his own 25-yard line to receive the punt. He doesn't do so cleanly. The muff puts it on the ground. The Houston Texans hobble on top of it, and they've got the football with great field position, and they would convert. Cashing in on the 1-yard touchdown run from the rookie Dameon Pierce. They would add another field goal before the end of the first quarter, Houston up 10-7. Early in the second, Dak finds Pollard again, this time in the flats. In the receiving game, Pollard making an impact, and he slips in for the touchdown.
Yes, right there you see, throw it out there to a swing pass. Bad tackling right here, one of the few missed tackles for the Texans.
First game of Pollard's career with both a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown. Dallas with the lead, but a tipped Dak Prescott pass picked off, and now the Texans get great field position for the second time in this opening half. And again, they would make them pay. The Texans now with Jeff Driscoll at quarterback, lofted it into the end zone. Amari Rodgers came down with it. The touchdown had Houston on top. Dallas would add a field goal to tie it, but then the Texans, with one more of their own, led 20-17 into the half. Dallas needed a big play. They got it from Donovan Wilson. He delivers with the forced fumble. Trayvon Diggs hops on top of the recovery, works all the way back inside his own 45-yard line. Where are you going, Trayvon? Well, it actually works out in favor as he goes all the way back to the 30 before he's escorted out of bounds. Dallas has a great chance for points, but that chance was snuffed out. Ezekiel Elliott at the goal line, stopped short of the goal line. A turnover on downs gives it back to Houston, who would then convert it into a field goal. Dallas got it back. 23-20 was the score. Houston on top heading into the fourth. Under 6 to play. Cowboys with their backs against the wall. Interception thrown and no chance to get it back inside the 5-yard line. Now Dallas really with their backs figuratively against the wall with little time remaining, but the defense stepped up big. After a third down stop from DeMarcus Lawrence, Jeff Driscoll on a broken play tried to early out, and on that fourth down stop, Neville Gallimore comes in with the stop to give it back to Dallas. Dak in the offense buckled down 98 yards in front of him. This one to Dalton Schultz for 18. Got Dallas inside the 5-yard line. And a few plays later, Ezekiel Elliott on the give. He plunges into the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown. 27-23. Dallas takes the lead with 41 seconds left on the clock. It allowed for one last opportunity for the Houston Texans to try to the end zone. Davis Mills with plenty of time rolls to his left, launches it into coverage. 3 different Cowboys all around it. Trayvon Diggs, Israel Mukuamu, and Jaron Kearse all fighting for the football, but it was Israel Mukuamu who came up with the interception to win it and the celebration into the end zone as he hops into the stand. It's not a Lambeau leap. That's an AT&T leap into the crowd as the Cowboys hold on, take a deep breath, and win it by 4, 27-23, the final score here in Week 14 of the NFL season. As the Houston Texans dominate on time of possession, they kept Dallas against the wall for every opportunity in that fourth quarter, but just didn't get that one final blow to win it. And the Cowboys take advantage and improve to 10-3 on the season. Houston falls to 1-11-1. When we come back, we dissect what went right and what went wrong for the Cowboys offense because things weren't necessarily clean and some problems on the offensive line. We'll talk about it when we come back with more Cowboys OT.
This segment is brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back into Cowboys OT following the 27-24 win for the Cowboys over the Houston Texans. 23 win, I should say. I gave them an extra point, just trying to help the game get closer at that point. Not that it needed to be, because the Cowboys survive, take a deep breath, and, of course, get the win. But let's talk about Dak Prescott and the offensive side of the football, starting with QB1 and his stat line. 24-39 passing, nearly 40 pass attempts, 284 yards, a touchdown, and a couple interceptions. Nate, what was your assessment of how Dak Prescott played and some of the early mistakes that nearly cost the Cowboys the ball game?
They just didn't look sharp. They didn't look they were on the same page. He didn't use his tight ends as much as I thought he should have because they took away the deep pass. But even when they tried to go in immediately, they was out of whack for some reason. And he looked like he forced a few because he had underneath coverage and over the top coverage on some of the receivers that he threw to. So it didn't look well for Dak today.
I didn't like it. I didn't like his performance whatsoever. We talked about Dak and how he needs to be around 30 pass attempts.
Yeah.
We talk about this offense and how they need to have actually more rush attempts than pass attempts. That was not the formula today. The Dallas Cowboys had 31 rush attempts versus 39 pass attempts. Dak Prescott, when he gets around 40 pass attempts, for whatever reason, it just doesn't pan out in the favor of the Cowboys. You already mentioned some of the balls that seemingly were forced. That's what it felt like today. It felt like they were out of sync. It felt like he wasn't utilizing his timing in the practice that they've had, and it felt like he just rifled the ball in there because they're playing against against the Houston Texans. I did not like his accuracy. He was inaccurate. He had some errant throws. The ball location was bad, and he felt like he was throwing the ball like Brett Favre, just kind of launching it in there. And unfortunately, when that happens, the timing is off with the receivers. Their perception of their ball is off, the proprioception, and also tips and overthrows. And that's what turns into those interceptions.
How much credit does he deserve, though, for the game-winning drive? 98 yards, 11 plays, and really a lot of those was on reads from Dak Prescott and came on reads from Dak Prescott to where he had to take advantage.
That's the Dak that you want to see. But that Dak showed up for one drive. We didn't see that Dak the rest of the game. Some of the balls that he put out there, the guys were either wide open or he was trying to force it, right? There is a lot of things that you don't see from the TV view is he wasn't reading coverages the right way, and we've seen that before. He was throwing the ball into coverages that the ball's not supposed to go to. Yes, you see him working his way through his reads, but sometimes he eventually gets to the point of his read where you're throwing it into a trap corner. or you're thrown into a press corner and you're trying to throw a swing route. Those are the plays that you remember back to like Reggie Bush when he was playing for the Saints. They get blown up and it turns to fumbles. You have to take preventative measures. He did a great job in that last drive, but again, he has to go back, watch film, and clean this up as you head towards the end of the season and try to make a post-game push.
Yeah, you just got to find a way to kind of clean up the edges. That's it. Just smooth out the edges from what this game looked like, because it wasn't his best performance, but it still ended up in a win. On the ground game, though, for the Cowboys, they were effective early. Nate, why did they go away from the ground game and what was working with Zeke and Pollard?
Sometimes, as offensive coordinator, you start pressing. You want to make a big play. At any point, they thought once they blew this game open or got maybe a 7 to 9 point lead, that they could blow this game open and Texans would lay down. But like my man said earlier, you throwing those bad and forced plays, it kept them in the game. Every time they thought they had a big play, we would throw an interception and they would be back in the game.
I felt like Kellen Moore went back to the old version of himself. For the last 3 to 5 games, you've seen Kellen Moore kind of graduate into this offensive coordinator who's literally trusting the process, right? Whether it's Mark McCarthy that's speaking wisdom to him or whether it's him just understanding what the succession of this offense is, he was kind of trusting in the running game. And guess what? If we can do play action off it, that's awesome. Now this game, you felt like he went into it and said, okay, let's run the ball first, early, but then after that, we're going back to throwing the ball all over the place because we have Dak Prescott. That's not it. Trust your game, trust your approach, and don't lean on just the fact that you have QB1.
Nate, how much did losing a guy like Terrence Steele hurt that moving into the second half? Because no Terrence Steele certainly played a role because there was Josh Ball, then a little Jason Peters.
And you would have thought that they would have went more to the run game with Ball coming in, because Ball cannot pass block. And I hate to down him like that, but he cannot. And they figured it out, and they started bringing that heat from his side, and they had to put Jason Peters in there. So, Coach, the offensive coordinator should have fell back on that run game a little bit more. But as the game went on in progress, they came back to it, and they helped when Jason Peters got in, a veteran guy.
And you're a really big proponent and a big, fan of just time of possession and getting that battle won. They didn't win that battle today. They actually lost it by about 4 minutes.
No, and it wore on our defense at the end, and I'm glad Dak came with the big drive at the end to keep our defense up, because they were on their last leg.
And let's talk about that defense a little bit when we come back here on Cowboys OT, because though there were times when they bent, they really didn't break, and I'll tell you why that's the case. And they put the offense in a place to be successful toward the back half of the Cowboys' 27-23 win over the Texans. We'll be right back.
This segment was brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
27-23, the Cowboys survive against the Houston Texans. Back here with Barry Church and Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Youmans from the Star in Frisco, and we've got to talk a little bit of your defense, Barry. Because, okay, full disclosure, 23 points in first glance against the Houston Texans does not look very good for a Dallas defense that has dominated this season. However, 14 of those came off a short field. They only allowed 3 field goals, and that's it for the rest of the game outside of the short field that were coming off of a couple turnovers. So overall, how did you think the defense played?
Look, I don't think it was their best performance of the year by any stretch of the imagination, but I do feel as though they made the plays that mattered most. You saw that they gave up 14 points in that short field situation, but when they were in that last drive, when that team was right there knocking at the door, they made the plays to get the ball back to their offense. They did a 4-and-out at the goal line stand against the Houston Texans right there, and it gave the offense or the ball back to their offense, and they were able to go down and score. So I don't think they played their best game. That rush that we're used to, those waves and waves of pass rushers, they weren't able to affect the quarterback the way we thought they could going into this game. Kudos to Houston Texans and Lovie Smith. They were able to run that 2-quarterback system and kind of keep this defense off balance. But overall, I felt like they played a good enough game to win the game, which they did.
I agree with you in the sense that they showed up when they needed to.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see them be more effective, but the reality is, as the longer you go into this season, the more offensive coordinators are going to adapt to what you do best. So running the ball keeps the ball out, keeps the ball out of your quarterback's hands. It cuts out Dallas's most dangerous threat, which is what? Their pass rush, right? So they did that well. Misdirection, okay? Quick little screen plays, things like that you see. They threw that one away. It keeps the pressure off of their quarterback, and again, it keeps your guys running sideline to sideline. The Texans had a great game plan. They weren't necessarily the most effective and the most dominant, but their game plan was efficient. There's going to be other teams that take note of this game, and they're going to try to apply that and add that into their approach.
How much were they missing a guy like Jonathan Hankins on the inside side. He left the game halfway through, and there were times when Jaron Kearse, at least pregame, went to the locker room, was evaluated with a knee injury. Trayvon Diggs was dealing with a couple thumb injuries. And then even toward the back end, Dorrance Armstrong left the locker room in a boot today. So a couple different areas where the Cowboys are banged up defensively. How much did they miss some of those guys?
I think they definitely miss Hankins towards the back after that game, because he was the guy that not only does he stuff the run up the middle, but he keeps those linemen off your second-level defenders. LVE, Damone Clark, when Parsons is back in that second level, he was able to keep offensive linemen off of that level so they can go sideline to sideline a lot easier. When he exited the game, we saw a lot more chunk plays, especially when you talk about the ground game and the quarterback run as well. So they're definitely going to miss a Hankins out there. Hopefully the diagnosis isn't too bad and he's able to get back in uniform and help this defense out for the long, stretch run.
When you don't have Jonathan Hankins in there, you're having to utilize stunts and guys crossing the face of offensive linemen to create pressure. When you have big Jonathan Hankins in there, he can two-gap guys and move the linemen back into their backfield. The reality is he has the ability to push guys back without sacrificing and leaving you exposed to big gaps in your defensive front. When you have those stunts going on, when they work awesome. But when they don't work, they leave gaping holes, and those leave out a lot of different opportunities. So hopefully he can come back. The other guys stepped up and they filled their roles, but they cannot do what he does.
Yeah, and mostly outside of the two short fields, as we take a look at some of the final defensive stats, the stats don't look poor for the Cowboys. I mean, they just didn't end up with a sack. First time all season the Cowboys defense has been held without one. But Barry, they stood up when they needed to, and they made the goal line stand. They also had a big turnover in the third quarter with Donovan Wilson poking the football out from Trayvon Diggs. How much of a weapon is that for this Cowboys franchise to know when they needed to stop, they definitely got one from that defense?
It's a bend but don't break defense. I mean, I don't care what you do between the 20s. If you don't break in that red zone and you're able to keep teams to field goals instead of touchdowns, you're going to win a lot of games in this league. And hopefully this defense is able to keep that bend but don't break system going. And we need it because the down stretch got a lot of tough opponents.
The defense is the heart and soul of this team. Yep. Let's call it how it is. Let's call it straight up. This defense runs the Dallas Cowboys. And when you put in a situation where you're already down and all of a sudden this team is trying to put you away within the 5-yard box, right? Turnover happens, interception. Now all of a sudden these guys are within 5 yards of one of the most physically imposing backs in their backfield, and you hold them to a 4-down turnover. That is absolutely awesome. That is the worst case scenario. The defense ended up winning this ball game for the Cowboys.
They definitely did, because 14 points off of turnovers, it could have very easily been 21. And at that point, there's no way the Cowboys come back to win this one the way that they did. Another big player that made an impact on that second level of the defense, Donovan Wilson. We go one-on-one with Dono out at AT&T Stadium when we come back with more Cowboys OT. Welcome back into Cowboys game night here from the Star in Frisco. The Cowboys get the win over the Houston Texans, 27-23. Back here with Isaiah Stanback, I'm Kyle Youmans, where we go now back out to AT&T Stadium as we hear from Donovan Wilson one-on-one. Donovan, first off, thanks for taking some time with us. Congratulations on the win. Tell us about how things kind of unfolded there at the end for you guys and what that win must have been like on the field.
Yeah, appreciate you. We just was flying around. We knew that it was going to be a dogfight regardless, that they was going to come out and give us their best shot. We just knew that we had to finish all 4 quarters, and it paid off.
Yeah, obviously, hey, Dono, man, congrats on the win. Help us understand, what was the game plan leading up to this week against obviously one of the most physically imposing backs in the league? You guys held him to under 80 yards. Tell us a little bit about what the game plan was and how effective you guys believe that you were against him.
The game plan just was all 11 men do their job, and we're just going to feed off each other and fly around.
With that being said, I mean, with, of course, the way that game unfolded in the early going, what was the message like on the sideline from either the coaching staff and some of those veterans on the sideline to allow you guys to come out on top and get the win in the long run?
We knew we just had to stick together, and that it was going to come down to all 3 phases doing their job. And sometimes we got to run on offense, sometimes the offense got to run on, sometimes we got to run on special teams. It's a 3-phase game.
And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, how the game plan stays the same whenever you're facing a team like this. Was there a moment in the game where, of course, like you said, having to stick together and rally the troops, you guys realized that, hey, even though things haven't gone right, there was still an opportunity for you to get the win?
You know, we just had to just keep on throwing that jab until we got the lick that we were looking for, and it paid off at the end.
All right, Donald, for the people at home that don't understand what it's like to be in the game environment, help them understand the mindset there, that last little goal line stand. What were you guys thinking there? What was your mentality? And what was kind of being said on that defensive side of the ball?
Different side, we knew we couldn't give up an inch. As long as we got a blade of grass, we felt like we could still make something happen. We knew we couldn't let them get no touchdown, hold them to 3. Came out to the fourth down, defense stand strong on that, and gave our offense a chance to go win it.
And really the defense did that throughout the afternoon as well, because not only was it the goal line stand coming in a timely fashion, but also your forced fumble. What happened on that play? What allowed you to be successful to poke the ball out?
Just being where I'm supposed to be and making my hits when I have my fits, and just playing on my teammates. They really lift me up out there.
There you go. Donovan Wilson joining us from the locker room at AT&T Stadium. Donovan, thanks so much. Congrats again on the win, and we'll talk to you again soon. There he goes. Donovan Wilson, the safety for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, he just talked about it. Whenever this defense has a blade of grass, they feel like they have an opportunity. They did so, came up with the big stand. It allowed the offense to even have a chance to drive 98 yards, and then they did so to get the 27-23 win. When we come back here on Cowboys Game Night, we hear from head coach Mike McCarthy. You know his heart beating is probably up there through the chest, through the roof at the moment. We'll talk to head coach Mike McCarthy when we come back. Welcome back into Cowboys OT from the Star in Frisco. Mike McCarthy now 12-5 all-time against head coach Lovie Smith. The two old friends battling it out again, this time in a Lone Star State battle that was won by the Cowboys 27-23. Here's Mike McCarthy at the podium following the win.
All right, David, I guess we got to do this.
Mike, David Moore, Dallas Morning News. You're always talking about finish. What do you have to say about that final offensive drive that Dak, after struggling so much earlier?
Oh, definitely. I think really it was part of the message. You know, I talked about the finish last week. Obviously, we know what that looked like, but I think today is clearly a fourth quarter finish that will pay dividends, you know, during the course of the season. You know, I'm talking about December, January football. So, I mean, this is why you do 2-minute every day. Just, you know, the composure of, you know, we had a number of guys get injured today. So I don't know if Tad is taking you through that. So, I mean, just a lot going on the sidelines. I thought the communication was excellent. I thought the players that had to stepped up, and guys just kept fighting. Yes, we can sit here and talk about all the things that didn't go right, and I get it. But at the end of the day, you have to go win the game in the fourth quarter, and we did that today with the stops on defense, and obviously the 2-minute drive with the offense.
Tim Calshaw, Dallas Morning News. Of those things that didn't go right, was there a point in the game where you thought either this team's not ready or this is going to be tougher than it should be or than we thought it was going to be?
I just think it's the reality of the National Football League, and that was really part of our message this week is don't take the cheese. And don't take the cheese, a big part of that is the expectations of everybody else, you know, because of the way you played the week before, because of your record versus your record. And that's where you get in trouble, you know. I'm a huge believer in preparation and the path through that and how it takes you into the game. But we've all been there. I've seen preparation that was not so good and we played great, and I've seen preparation where it was outstanding and didn't play so good. So there's no absolutes there. But the message I'm saying is we had a really good week of preparation. I would measure this week better than last week. So that's that. I just think the thing, you know, we had a couple chances early, and I think when you get into these type of games, if you can make the big plays early, I think the game goes down a different path. But every game has ebb and flow. You know, this is how we coach it, talk it, walk it, and you're always going to have counters. You know, there's always usually 30 big plays in a game. They had 9, we had 8 at halftime. So we were -1 in that area. And to me, that was really the tail of the tape. And I just think with the injuries, the way our guys kept battling, and it came down to the situation that we put a tremendous amount of effort into. That's why we talk about resilience, adversity, advancement, all those things. And sorry for a very long answer, but I'm just so disappointed you guys aren't still talking with Jerry. I just can't get it out of my head. But that's what I'll think about that.
Mike Todd with ESPN. What were your thoughts on Dak's first 56 minutes and his last 4?
Well, I mean, we had some situations in the passing game that, you know, we'll obviously go back and clean up. Kellen and I were just visiting shortly. You give it the emphasize, and when things aren't quite what they need to be, is that maybe we got to spend a little more time. I mean, we're still going to have the same amount of time to prepare each and every week. So our drop back passing game is something that we've done very well. I mean, we've been very successful running the football. Like I said, we had some moving parts today offensively. So, our run game quite wasn't what we'd like it to be. I think we had the three negative runs, or, 3 minus runs there in the first half. Actually, Malik, all 3 of them, I think were his plays. So, this is football, and this is I'm not trying to make excuses. I get what's on my chest and the expectations. I get that, but it's about winning, and we got it done today.
Mac Engel, Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Coach, the obvious thing that any of us are going to draw a conclusion of is that given the records of your last 2 opponents, that you guys just didn't maybe take them as seriously and you weren't quite as into it as you would be if you were playing Philadelphia or some other team that had a gaudier record. You buy that at all?
Well, I wish I could help you out with a quote. I just don't see it that way. I see a team that works, and obviously, we measure everything that they do physically, their emotional, state. You're always trying to be in touch with that. They put the time in. So, I think Houston, I thought they played well. They're a challenge to play for. Their defense with 2 quarterbacks. So, I mean, there's some herky-jerkiness to that, and they hit their big plays. If we hit the big play on the second play of the game, maybe the first half's a little different. So, I mean, that's our league, and that's why we focus so much on the generation of big plays, because they always factor in these games. And when the other team has a couple more than you are, then you're usually in a dogfight.
Elwin Henderson, Gilmer Mirror. Mike, the fact you just mentioned 2 quarterback platooning, how much did that affect you defensively in that first half, having to adjust? Because obviously you weren't expecting that probably.
Well, I mean, we transitioned very well. I mean, we're familiar with Jeff Driscoll. We actually brought him in, here for a free agent visit a few years back. So, we played these guys in preseason, last year. So, I thought Dan and his staff and the players handled it seamlessly. I mean, the communication, every time they swapped, and the communication was clean. I didn't see the substitution of it as an issue, but it's a challenge. I mean, it's a challenge because it's concept thinking, as far as your play call and staying on your script and getting in your Rolodex, all those things. So I thought Dan and the staff and most importantly the players did a good job with it.
Like you were talking about how the way you won this game can pay dividends for you in January and going forward, but what about immediately as far as keeping you in the chance to win the division, and not, if you would have lost this game, it would have been pretty difficult. So,
I understand your question, but we won the game. So, and that's really all that matters. I'm more concerned about the health of our players right now. So, I mean, this was a tough day in that area. So, and I think just, we'll rally and get ready, to go get Jacksonville. So, did Philadelphia win? Yeah. Oh, they did? Okay, see, I'm focused on winning. So, what was the score?
48.
Okay. So, hey, it's all in front of us. We just got to keep playing.
So there's Mike McCarthy wrapping things up at the podium at AT&T Stadium, back here with Barry Church and Nate Newton. And how tough is that for a coach? Because you get the win, you're at 10-3, but things were so muddied and so convoluted throughout much of that football game, Nate, that it's hard to be happy. And you could tell from Mike McCarthy there, a little bit agitated going into that press conference.
400 yards of offense, 50% more on third downs. You didn't win the time of possession, but everywhere else, the 3 turnovers is what muddied it up. It made it look good and gave Houston life. But as a coach, at the end of the day, you get judged on one thing as your quarterback do, and did you win the game? They can work on what they need to improve. They cut out on the penalties, only 3 of them. So I understand this agitation, because at the end of the day, me and Barry are sitting over here, and you yourself, Kyle, and we're finding the little things. But at the end of the day, they're still 2 games behind Philadelphia and got a shot at them at the end, come December.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they got to win. And I agree with Coach McCarthy right there. He said no matter what's going on, 2 interceptions, defense not getting after the quarterback as we thought they would, They still had a chance to win the game. Defense stepped up in the end. Offense went on that mojo moment. They had a nice 2-minute drive right there. Kudos to the coaching staff for getting these players ready for that type of moment. But they won the game, and that's what we get judged on. Kudos to the coach.
All right, we've got a mojo moment reference here on Cowboys OT. Shout outs to Barry Church to bringing that training camp storyline and bringing it right into Week 14 of the NFL season. It was a mojo moment for Dak Prescott and company. We hear from QB1 when we come back right after this. Welcome back into Cowboys OT following the Cowboys' 27-23 win over Houston. Let's go back out to AT&T Stadium and hear from quarterback Dak Prescott.
Dak, David Moore, Dallas Morning News. Just what did you say to the team going in on that final drive, and where does that rank as far as you being able to execute something in that situation?
Yeah, I told them we're going to go win this game. Honestly, I said it after the interception. Just having faith and trust in the defense, knowing that those guys are going to go out there and make a play. And then once they did that, us having the opportunity, told them one play at a time, heighten the focus, and that's something that I'm always remind the guys, but just, hey, we're going to win this game. Don't blink, and none of those guys did. You could tell in their eyes they believed it. A couple of them said it themselves. And yeah, it was a great one. I mean, obviously it's the NFL. It was a tough game. Didn't play our best by any means, and we had an opportunity right there, 2 minutes left, and went and got it done. And at the end of the day, that's all it's about is capturing wins, and we're able to get this one.
Dak, Jory Epstein, Yahoo Sports. On that same note, I think Dalton said Zach came into the huddle with a smile, and you said something like, "I love that energy, Zach." Can you take us through that moment going into the last drive and just what the energy of the guys were?
Yeah, Zach was smiling, yeah, and I just walked, yeah. You got to love it. You got to love these moments. You got to love being in that position. If you don't, you shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be in that huddle. Damn sure not with the guys that we have and the culture and the things that we're building and we're trying to accomplish. But yeah, I mean, Zach was smiling. I was excited. We're always excited. Who cares what's happened these last 58 minutes of this game? We've got 2 minutes to go get a win and erase everything that's happened before this in a sense. And it took everybody to do their individual jobs, heighten their focus, as I said. And that's what we're able to do, and it was a great finish.
Were the Texans defending y'all differently than teams prior, or what do you think was going on with some of the deflected passes?
I think that's just part of what they want, part of what they're trying to do. I mean, playing soft zones, making you throw in tight windows, guys, you know that, so that they're more heads up to jump, try to get hands on the ball, and that's their whole deal is getting turnovers. And obviously, we gave them a couple, made it hard for us. I made it hard for the team and giving them a couple. But yeah, when you're able to go 2 minutes right there, something that we practice a couple times a week, and everybody focus and understanding that's what we're going to go do and what we need to do to go win this game. Yeah, it's the NFL. It's the NFL. I mean, after the game, they asked me about taking the cheese, and I said, hey, man, it's the NFL. Give this team credit. One loss or not, those guys that came out there and they played hard. They played hard all 4 quarters, and yeah, we were just able to give our best in the last 2 minutes and finish it.
What were they doing, though, in the first 58? I mean, Mike and Jerry said they were showing you coverage and doing things they hadn't done before, Joe hadn't seen before, and Mike said that it's something other teams may copy.
Yeah, for sure. A little bit of we know that they had a decent disguise and coming into the game, but however, they're going to get to a couple of coverages. I feel like they added a couple of more tonight. And just, yeah, when you do that and against and you haven't shown that on film, gives you a heads up there. So whether it be the play calling that maybe wasn't the best at the time, my reads were half a bit slower because they disguised it well and got to some that they haven't been in. But for us, it's about understanding that, yeah, we may get that more, as Coach said, and just understanding that we've got to execute, or sometimes we got to not try to fit the ball in tight windows and create those tip passes and too many balls up in the air, and that's what they want. So I just can't give them that opportunity.
On the second interception, in the fourth quarter, and are you starting to worry about the interception? This is the first time in your career you've had 9 interceptions in your first 9 games.
9 for 9?
9 for 8.
Yeah, I'm damn sure not a fan of that. I think y'all guys know that. It's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. If you go back and all of them, yeah, some were miscommunication in the past games. Tonight, first one, tried to fit it in too tight of a window. I don't even know if Noah necessarily saw it. You know what I mean? Guy Try to get a hand on it, ball pops up in the air. The second one, my arm got hit. Yeah, unfortunate on some of them, but we've got to find a way. I've got to find a way to take better care of the ball. But yeah, damn right, it's frustrating. No, it's not something that I've ever been okay with and never will be okay with. But I'm not going to not be aggressive, as I said. I've worked too hard. This team's worked too hard, created too great of a chemistry for me to to not be aggressive and to not try to make the throws that I know I can make, but damn sure I've got to be smarter and just weigh the risk versus the reward in a split second. And that's just part of my preparation is something that I promise I'll clean up.
Michael Gelkin, Dallas Morning News. What did JP's presence mean at right tackle on that final drive?
Yeah, it was awesome. A guy that comes in, hadn't played right tackle since 2005, but a veteran and a gold jacket veteran. So you have no worries when he comes in and wherever he has to fill in and do his job, you know that his expectations and his standards are to the highest, and he's going to go and give it his all. And that's all you can ask for a guy like that. And he's just contributed so much to this team just in his presence throughout the locker room and the games that he's come in and played. The series that he's come in and he's played, we scored on majority of those. And obviously coming in right there and right tackle in that final drive did exactly what he needed to do to give me some time, allow us to take some opportunities down the field. And just credit to that guy. Hell of a player, hell of a tackle, right or left. Thankful to have him on our team, especially in this situation.
So we talked a little bit earlier about Dak Prescott and his performance specifically, but he's setting us up pretty perfectly for a conversation. At the moment, reports coming out of the locker room, Terrence Steele, who left the game in the second half, may not return for the rest of the season. Further evaluation to come earlier in this week. But with that being said, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback with you. I'm Kyle Youmans. There's a conversation now because it took some time for Jason Peters to work in at right tackle. It was Josh Ball initially. Jason Peters came in, played better than Josh Ball did. I think that's your guy moving forward, at least for now. But then you're getting Tyron Smith back in the fold. So then there's a conversation on where do you put Tyler Smith, Connor McGovern. What does the offensive line situation look like right now? Are the Cowboys okay to where they can turn things around and maybe mix and match a little bit?
You either leave it with Peterson coming in and leave it like it is on the left side. And if you're going to bring back in Tyron Smith, then you kick the other kid down to the left guard and you play it like that right there. Now, Isaiah may have a different deal, but if you're going to go best five, let's go best five.
It looks like he has a different deal, right?
I hold my guy Nate in the highest of regards, but that doesn't mean we have to agree on absolutely everything. Listen up. If Tyron Smith is going to be back next week now, that's just a given, okay? So you put him at the left tackle, the Hall of Famer there. You take Mr. Jason Peters and you put him at the right tackle if Mr. Terrence Steele can't get back. Prayers up to him, okay? I hope that he's able to be okay. Sure. But if he's not, okay, you got to put big Hall of Famer on right tackle and left tackle. And then you have a Martin, who's your other Hall of Famer. Take the young man, Tyler Smith, out. He is now your break glass, okay? He's your break glass scenario guy who can go to left tackle or right tackle. You leave McGovern in there doing what he does best. I understand that Tyler Smith is a really talented tackle. He's done a great job. The history that we understand about him at the guard position is not awesome. But also now it's not even just about your best five. It's about having who's in reserve. You have two extreme veterans, guys who have been playing for a very long time at the left tackle and right tackle position. There's a chance that something can happen with either one of them. If that does, who are you looking to now? Ball? We saw what happened today.
No, it's a great point.
Just give them extra help and then go with me. Believe me. Go with Nate.
That's Nate's rebuttal. There we go. As we continue along here on Cowboys OT. When we come back, we flip the attention back to the defensive side of the football. Dallas held without a sack today for the first time this season. We'll hear from some of those edge rushers when we come back. It was a tough time for the Cowboys pass rush to do what they've done all season, get to the quarterback. No sacks for the first time in a game this year. However, whenever the game needed it most, the defense was able to come up big. DeMarcus Lawrence with a huge play on third down, a tackle for loss that set up a fourth down stand on the goal line for the Cowboys. Here's what he had to say after the win.
When it's situations like that, it's a must stop, and it just bring the greatness out you. It's either you're gonna, bend or you're gonna stand straight tall. So I'm just glad that I got 11 guys that's, willing to stand tall with me. Yeah, man. like I said earlier, the Battle of the Texas, we know Houston was going to come out, with their guns fired. But, it's just a testament to, my character and, being able to stand up through that fire and, just get our jobs done. And that's what we was able to do tonight.
I feel like you had the offense back a little bit tonight. They were struggling a little bit.
We always got their back, no matter what the situation is. If it's 40-3 or it's 23-20, we're gonna live up to the moment and have their back.
What do you think about being back in the playoff time? Is there a quarter to be frustrated in ways like you were today?
You know what I mean? I feel like playoff football is more about running the ball and being able to control the time of possession. But it's just really about us continuing to grow as a team, being able to play complementary football and bounce off each other. So we've got a long way to go. We continue growing, and that's all I got for y'all tonight. Peace.
DeMarcus Lawrence with some choice words after a win over the Houston Texans. It wasn't pretty for the Cowboys defense. However, we mentioned it earlier in the show. Both of the touchdowns for the Texans came off of short fields and turnovers. However, they buckled down when they needed to and showed their strength again, and that is not allowing a big-time play. The Cowboys did it again.
Yeah, they buckled down, and, we didn't see that quarterback pressure that we're used to seeing from these waves and waves of defensive pass rushers that they have, but they were able to affect the game in different ways. You saw a lot of batted down passes out there, and also you saw this defensive line getting after the runner. The biggest play of the game on that goal line stand, DeMarcus Lawrence and the crew go in there and stop them. So they were able to affect the game. It's not just about pass rushing. I think they did enough to win this game, which they did.
I think they did enough to win this game also. I think they did a great job of obviously being there when the team needed them most. They did give up a little bit in the passing game, though, okay? Moore had 11 targets, 10 receptions for 124 yards, okay? They held him without a touchdown, which is awesome, but they have to clean up some things there. We talked about Kelvin Joseph getting thrown into things, Nashawn Wright, Israel Mukuamu showing up. So some of these younger guys that have not had the reps that some of these veterans have had, you're missing an Anthony Brown, you're missing a Jay Lou. These guys are going to have to continue to get these reps, get them out when you're playing against some of these teams like the Texans, right? And so that they can obviously contribute towards the end of the year.
And there's another one of those games coming up this week. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars, record-wise, don't look like a huge threat. However, at least this week, you learn the lesson. You cannot overlook anybody in the NFL, especially with Trevor Lawrence playing the way he has been over these last few weeks. We talk about the week ahead for the Cowboys and how they can maybe fill some holes with all these injuries when we come back and wrap things up on Cowboys OT.
The Cowboys OT was brought to you by Sleep Number. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com, trusted by millions, trusted by America's team. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl.
27-23, the final score from AT&T Stadium. The Cowboys get the win, and they improved to 10-3 on the regular season, and they've got a couple weeks remaining. 1 month left in the NFL regular season. Currently 2 games back in the NFC East as we welcome you back into Cowboys OT. Barry Church, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Youmans wrapping things up. Barry, it's a week ahead, very similar to what we just saw. An AFC team and a team that doesn't have the best record in the book. They've been playing better football as of late. How do the Cowboys avoid the cheese conversation altogether this week? Because we saw that they almost bit it today.
Yeah, you just can't sleepwalk into games. We all know that it's the NFL. Anything can happen on any given Sunday. And those Jacksonville Jaguars, they're tough to beat down there in Duval. So to me, they can't sleepwalk into it. And the young guys in the secondary, the Nashawn Wrights, the Calvin Josephs, the Deron Bland, it's time for you guys to put in a great week of practice because they're going to need you to contribute for this defense for the long haul, seeing as though we have injuries in the back end.
You're going on the road, no turnovers. Be perfect in that area. No turnovers. You should come out of there, no matter it's by 1 point, you should come out of there with a win.
Come out the gate fighting, y'all. Don't try to do slow roll this thing. Don't think that you're just going to show up because things have been going well. Momentum is not on your side. Have that mentality. Go out there, punch guys in the mouth, and keep punching until the referee blows a whistle dead.
And that's one of the things. Dallas came out today, scored early, got a big stop, and then the miscues started. It was the muffed punt from Kevontae Turpin that really started the snowball, gave the Texans some life. And credit to the Texans, they played probably their best game of the season all the way through All 4 quarters, they did what they needed to do, at least to be in position. But in the end, the Cowboys come out on top, and they get the win in this one. Cowboys 10-3. Record still in the positioning to try and make a run at the NFC East title. For Barry, Nate, Isaiah, and our entire crew, I'm Kyle Youmans. That does it for Cowboys OT. We'll see you next week here from the Star in Frisco.